my name is Anri and Goosen. Many of you have probably met me during a make event. So we created Ziggy. Okay, so we are myself and Pieter Goosen, Johan Plessis, and then Shawn and Mariëtte Gradwell. And we wanted to create a way to help us create better financial habits. And some of the best ways to do that, if you want to build a habit, is using something like gamification. But you also kind of need instant feedback if you want to build habits. So you need to know if you're progressing towards building your habits or if you're sliding in building your habits. So this is what Ziggy is. Ziggy is a way for us to create financial or to build financial using game. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry guys, my internet connection just is saying it's unstable. Okay, so Ziggy is a way for us to build financial habits using gamification and instant notifications. We did this using the Investec Programmable Banking platform. We used both the Open API and the card programmable card. We also used the Google Cloud Platform, Slack, and Python. So Jim Rohn once said that motivation is what gets you started and habit is what keeps you going. And I think this is very applicable to our little project that we built. So how it works. First, I'm going to show you guys a quick little demo, and then I'll take you guys through the nitty gritty of this system. So like I said, Ziggy is a Slack bot. So we create a little Slack channel which has goals, and if you type in a normal, use like normal Slack shortcuts, you can actually access Ziggy. So for instance, if you type in Ziggy, you see that there's a few commands, but there's also the main Ziggy app, which will give you options like avatars, goals, new goals, and transactions. Avatar will list a avatar status. Goals will give you a list of all your goals. New goal will allow you to create a new goal. And transactions will show you a list of transactions that haven't been categorized yet. This transaction categorization is quite important, especially from a budgeting point of view. So Ziggy is kind of built on the premise of building budgets, which we'll get to just now. So for now, let's see how Ziggy is doing. So what we'll see is Ziggy is currently a level 1 avatar. It's got very few health points. Let's say we've been spending like crazy this month, but we also have quite a bit of XP points to help us get through. So currently we're on level 1, which is just like a little egg. He still needs to hatch. Don't have any goals set. Okay, so if what I just showed earlier was if we list goals, we can see that we don't currently have any goals. But now we can create a goal. And what this allows us to do is you can set a savings goal or a spending goal. Um, and then you can choose your start and your end dates for your goals. Then you can also choose your spending type. So spending type will be something like a total value or a number of transactions. So total value would be a cent value. For instance, you want to spend at in your transport category, and number of transactions would be if you want to limit the amount of times you go to a place like Woolworths in the month, for instance. So all your value limits, if you want to use the total value, would be in cents. So we'll just like put in an arbitrary value there. And you can choose if you want to build a budget category based goal or a merchant based goal. So if you're using a budget category, there's a bunch of predefined categories, and a lot of the transactions are categorized automatically by Ziggy. Or we can use merchant based, which case you would give a merchant name and the merchant code. So for instance, if you want to go to Woolworths and then you just find the corresponding code for Woolworths in the merchant code. But for now, we're just going to set a budget category based goal and in the entertainment category. And now we'll see Oh my gosh, Ziggy just got some XP points for creating a goal. That is awesome. So this is your instant notification showing you what you did with Ziggy. And if we list the goals again, we now have a thread showing all the goals that we've made, in which case this would be the one goal. We can also update the goals through here. So we can change the value, the start date, the end date, things like that. And you can also delete any goals that you want to through here. But now, okay, we need to make a transaction quickly. So I'm just gonna like make a arbitrary transaction in at a merchant using a code that's already predefined as an entertainment merchant. And we should see the transaction just got posted, and you'll see there that the transaction category. We also see now that Ziggy just got upgraded. So we've got a level 1 Ziggy now, which is a little baby toddler. Now we see that Ziggy is on level 2, and our HP is took a big hit because we did actually make a transaction against a goal. I also XP also resets every time we level up, so we need to gain all that XP again to level up. If we make a transaction again against this goal, the idea here is to simulate that we're actually going to hit 0 health points. So we're going to level down, as we just see there. We just leveled down, so we're on level 1, but our HP resets to a full health bar for us, so that we don't actually like struggle through and just lose all the levels at once. As I said earlier, you can also like change the category of a transaction, if or you can list any transactions that might be uncategorized, but we don't actually have transactions uncategorized at the moment. We didn't simulate that. Yeah, and then just again, if you want to like, um, oh, so quickly want to show if we make a transaction at a different merchant. So this is the code for bike stores. Yeah, I know codes for bike stores because I spend a lot of time there. Then we get a transaction that shows for hobbies or sports. And we can actually change the transaction or the category for the transaction in using that little drop down. These categories were actually predefined by us in Ziggy using the merchant JSON. So yeah, if you change it to entertainment, like we have a goal there, then you see that you actually do take a hit on your HP again. And that is it for the demo. So now
Very
to
cool.
get, thanks, Dean. So now to get to the nitty-gritty technical side of things, we used Google Cloud as well to do all of this. We set up an API gateway to handle communication between our backend and anywhere for the Investec API or Programmable Banking Card. So how it works essentially is you make a transaction. That transaction goes to that transaction gets pushed through the API gateway, and it gets added into or it gets grabbed by the add transaction cloud function. That will then add that transaction. It's going to do a bit of formatting on the transaction and then add it to our transactions collection in Firestore. The Whenever a transaction is created, that creates an on create event that triggers the categorize new transactions cloud function. So that is where a transaction would be categorized as bills or groceries, transport, sport, something like that. And that will then, if a transaction is categorized, it will then update the document in the Firestore collection or not if no category was found for that transaction. That then also pushes a new transaction notification on PubSub, which then goes all the way down to our Slack app in Cloud Run that then sends the Slack notification so that you get that instant notification of your transactions. So now when a transaction was categorized with either through the Slack or using the cloud function that categorizes transactions, that triggers the game engine cloud function. So the transaction will then be processed. So we determine if your avatar takes a hit, if the avatar has to level up or down, what your XP looks like, what your HP looks like, stuff like that. And then it all sends a notification via a PubSub that your avatar has been updated, which then triggers a notification to Slack again. Whenever you create a new goal through Slack, it creates a document in Firestore in our goals collection. And that also then triggers the Game Cloud engine, which then processes goals, which again triggers the avatar notification, which again goes through the Slack app and then notifies you via Slack. So there's a lot of notification changes via this one little pub sub. So if you through Slack, you can like create the new goals, which goes through that whole process. You can list goals or update goals or delete them. Again, goes just through that whole process. Transaction categorize, again, same process. And then the avatar, you just get a read. So avatar, you'll just request from the avatar collection in Firestore, and then that just sends it back to you. And then as an additional little feature that we added a cloud scheduler, which triggers daily. We set it to about 6 a.m. in the morning. And then that grabs all your transactions via the open API, adds any transactions that might be missing in the Firestore collection, processes them. So that's where if you have any savings goals, for instance, we look at your savings accounts, see if you made any deposits or withdrew anything from your savings accounts, see if you've got goals, and then processes those goals. And that is pretty much the nitty gritty of our challenges we encountered. Was creating a Slack bot firstly. None of us have any experience writing Slack bots, but Johan was a trooper and he created the entire Slack bot for us. But one of the big problems we ran into was that the Slack bot has a 3-second limit, and Google Cloud Functions written in Python have a very long cold start time. So sometimes there would be some timeouts happening there. And then processing transactions with the different formats. This is the disconnect between the open API and the programmable code that Wayne was also talking about a little bit earlier. It was quite interesting trying to figure out, like, if you already have transactions in the database and now you're grabbing it via the open API, trying to get those things to match up. And then because this is a hackathon, we did not get enough sleep. And then I just got a request from Pieter here to quickly show you guys the other avatars that we have.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Bit of a spoiler alert, but yeah.
So yeah, okay. In the little demo, I just showed you actually level 1 and 2, which is the egg, and then you get little toddler Ziggy. But we also have little kiddo Ziggy, which loves to play with balls. And then we have the teenager Ziggy, which is quite a cool dude who roller skating around. And then we get to superstar Ziggy when you hit level 5.
And who did the drawings, Anri?
So Mariëtte did all the drawings for us and did all the concept art for us.
Very cool.
Sorry, I'm looking to put a hand up, but I can't find it. Maybe I'm just. You were speaking about a 3-second delay that sometimes ran out. We found some delays at times as well, and I was wondering whether it was GCP, whether maybe root was the Investec side, where the call to a GCP took longer, and we weren't able to figure out which part it was. It's funny that you guys find this, because 3 seconds should be more than enough for a transaction going up to GCP and coming back with a result.
Yeah, we just found it to be very inconsistent, because even when we did when we tested earlier, it took considerably long. And when we initially did this, it was like in a second it returned via Investec. So yeah, very inconsistent.
Yeah, the timeouts we had problems was between the Slack bot and Google Cloud Functions, where Python, any Google Cloud function that was written in Python takes very long to when it has to cold start. If it's already run
Oh,
once or twice in the day, it's
so you're
actually a lot
saying
faster.
are you saying it's your initial call, and that generally takes a bit longer for the initial call?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we were, yeah, and like Dean said, it was inconsistent. Sometimes it would be sub-second, other times it would be slightly longer, and we'd have to sit there and wait for the screen to refresh. Even on the Google, the Firestore side, where you generally see updates happening immediately, it would sometimes take a lot longer. But it was inconsistent, and we couldn't place it on. We couldn't say it was definitely this component or that component.
Cool. So the next steps we envision for our little project is just finalizing and wrapping up the savings goals using the investing on a bit of a rush, and we haven't like polished it nicely just yet. And then anyone who's had a look at the repo would have seen that this is one big pain to install and get running for yourself. So we would love to make Ziggy a hell of a lot easier to install. Then we also want to expand Ziggy for multiple users so that we can create a community of habit building awesomeness. And we also want to create quests that you can create. So that the idea is that you can create individual quests, and you can also run monthly community quests where anyone that does good against goals um, makes progress against the community quest. But whenever someone like slacks off in their goals, the whole community kind of feels it, which would obviously be offset by people doing good. And that is what we envision for Ziggy. So if you want to get involved, you can find most of us on the Office Slack community. I'm at Anri and Goosen. You guys can also speak to me at the Make events and find me in most of the channels. Then we also have Pieter G, Shawn Gradwell, and Johan Plessis. All the code and installation instructions can be found on our repo, which is github.com/bgoosen/Ziggy. And if anyone wants to have a little watch at our Investec video, there's a link to that as well. Any questions?
I really love that. It's really well done. Like, just don't show our marketing people little zebras, but we'll pretend they don't exist. But I love it.
Well done, very cool.
Me too. That's very cool.
All right. Anri, super cool. Thank you so much. A lot of complexity on the back end there. That's really impressive and cool to see. How are you guys thinking about this at the moment? Like, are you just having a lot of fun with it, learning a lot? What are your kind of?
Glenn, maybe if I can answer that. Hi guys, I joined late, so sorry I wasn't introduced. I work with Anri and them. We live 2 houses apart, and she's my sister-in-law, so we joined at the hip, and we love this kind of stuff. I'm a solution architect with Datacentrics, and amongst other things, I do. I'm certified in AWS, even though we've got most stuff in Azure at the moment, and some cool stuff running. I'm really thinking forward in that regard, and I love it. From my perspective, I think, look, what we use, we just use Slack because we saw it can work practically, but it can eventually become an app. It can eventually integrate with something like Microsoft Teams or WhatsApp. Or, you can have multiple outlet channels that's customer or user facing, and I think just the concept of it to have something cool is something that, you know, when we discussed it initially, it's something that we'll use personally. You know, if it's once it's easy enough to practically work with, it's something we'll certainly do. And obviously then it's just linked to the one card. So whatever you buy with that one card will link to it, not all your accounts. You know, so there's lots of scope. And, you know, literally we invite you guys to all send ideas and, you know, and help think how we can make this into something, you know, that can work as a pet product, pet project for us. And we're all very excited about it.
And are you guys using it yourselves yet, or is it not really ready yet on a daily basis?
No, so I'm not actually using it. I'm currently building a completely different system using the Investec programmable banking and the open API. I'm actually trying to create a big budget platform, and at the moment a big headache is just getting transaction data into Google Sheets. But yeah,
yeah, once it's easy to install, I think, and you know, not all of us, like me, I'm not on Investec yet. So these other guys they are in the circle. So yeah, I can't actually use it, but I think once, you know, we all use Slack, and it's also why we chose Slack, because we are on Slack and we use it every day. My AWS community is on that, etc. And you know, I'm checking out that side as well, because it's interesting to be part of the architects group in the cloud. And not, so it's a different lens I filter the things through. And it's quite interesting to see what you can marry between the two. And yeah, obviously keep an open mind.
Mm.
Actually, that is an interesting question or point you make, where you say you're on AWS and Azure. I know for this project we use GCP. Was there a specific reason why we use GCP or chose that?
Yeah, it's because the other guys know Google quite well.
Yeah, know, but if you look at market share, AWS has a massive market share. I'm not saying GCP is bad or good, or saying anything towards the Office or Investec side of things. I just, I like Google. I use their products all the time. I actually don't use AWS or Azure on a daily basis. I use GCP, even though it's less market share, but I use a lot more of their products. But it's just interesting to find out why people would use what the chosen thing is. Sorry, Ben, I see you smiling. So.
We went with GCP just because most of the developers in our team actually have a lot of experience using GCP. And not everyone has a lot of experience with AWS. I have a lot of experience on AWS. I use it in my day-to-day work. But I do actually have previous experience with GCP as well. And Johan and Pieter both work day-to-day with GCP. So that's just why we went with it.
Is that a South African thing? I don't know. Because we aren't exposed to AWS or Azure a lot. So yeah, I'm not sure. It's just I'm throwing a question out there.
I must say, from my side, working with corporates, we do a lot with AWS and Azure. In fact, Azure is the most popular because people know Microsoft and they trust them, you know, to put their servers. Obviously, they're still thinking of putting VMs down. So we obviously do a lot of work to try and convince them otherwise and re-architect. What I've seen is we're moving into Huawei Cloud now, specifically because it's cheaper. We get better margins as data centrics. So we've got some customers on there. And I'm trying to move a serverless Microsoft, what do they call it, Logic app. It's just really a Python script running. No, it's a Node.js script running on some Logic. I want to get that into Huawei Clouds. And I'm trying to figure that out with the Huawei guys, because they've got something called Function App. But corporates in South Africa, they're not really using Google per se. They want their VMware, or they want, you know, lift and shift servers. That is still where they're stuck. And obviously you guys are all living in the future. You're creating the future. With these guys, you know, again, they know Microsoft, they know AWS is a buzzword and they check it out. But honestly, we've got, you know, I'm on the connectivity, the cloud side as well. We spinning up more Azure than AWS at this stage. You know, express route rather than direct connect.
But I'm thinking of our solution, and I don't think we are GCP specific. I suppose we could actually deploy our solution to any cloud
Yeah.
provider out there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it's Node.js or JSON or Python or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
It's quite. Look, I'm experiencing that now firsthand. It's not really copy paste, but at least when you get the program written, that's half of your work already done. And now just figuring out how the parts fit together. But yeah, it's cool.
I think everyone now knows who the salesperson in our team is.
Yeah, I'm technically in sales.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Yeah, well done. It's really awesome. And I love the gamification element and the thought that went into that. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. I would like to start using it. So I'll check out your repo.
Good luck getting it installed.
Wow. Okay.
You can phone
You know, we
Anri.
complain to you if something happens dodgily on your account.
Yeah.
It would probably be easier if like just give us a call. We can help you set it up.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. We've got Wayne on the call, so I don't know if anyone has any questions for the Investec team at this point. Might be a good opportunity now. I guess we've covered quite a lot of this stuff just by going through these demos.
Yeah, just like there's some common pain points we are working on and know about, like some of the post, as I mentioned, the post-transaction events. Like we're seeing that when it comes to practically, like you need a bit more details. The deploying these things to multiple cars is quite a pain. Like you can imagine if you have 20 cars, and you have to go to 20 editor screens. So we're looking at a way of making that easier as well. We found that to be quite a pain. What else is there? It's a couple of like things coming up. We primarily focused on just sorting out the authentication authorization model. Like just so that basically what you can do is if you're a company and you want to use it, you can just basically go into Investec Online, get your client ID and secret and manage it that way. Currently, it's a bit of a pain that it's linked to like your individual account as a user. Obviously, it started as an individual thing, but as businesses started using it, it became quite problematic how it's linked to a user's cards, basically. So a lot of work is happening in that. Yeah, I don't know. Is there any other things that you're like burning issues? I also know about the transaction ID, the bane of my life. Like trying to get the transactions ID unique out of our systems is quite a nightmare. I've been all over the place. I finally got them to agree, and then they found out that there's actually multiple systems downstream. So if you see like 5 transactions, each one of them could be from a different system. So it's very hard to create a unique key between those 5 systems. But that's a challenge, and we're working through it. So hopefully that will also be resolved soon.
Sorry, something I wanted to ask as well. Michiel worked on the Investec side and the Java code there. It would be nice to have some correlation between a pre-transaction and a post-transaction. I know you aren't likely to swipe a card multiple times within a second, but there's a pre-transaction that happens, it gets authorized, and then you have a post-transaction that will post it to whatever you needed to do. But I'd like to have just something that correlates a pre-transaction and an authorization or declining to actually flow through to the post-transaction and say, this transaction was authorized or declined, and this is the transaction ID that went to the pre-transaction, just to tie those two together.
Happy. There's something we'll look at. Also, like we're looking at adding the base currency to the transaction feeds for the API. I don't know if you saw, everything's coming out in rands, and when you like swipe overseas, it's quite problematic that you can't get the like original currency. So we're also working on that.
And then also on that, is there a currency exchange rate at the time when this pre-transaction happened? What was the currency rate at that point in time? Because there might be a slight delay in when the post-transaction happens, and there might be a different exchange rate. Which one is actually valid?
I don't know, but we'll have a look while we're doing the work to figure out the currencies.
Sorry, these are just things I'm throwing out there.
No, it's beautiful. You keep on trying it. It's all good, your feedback.
Sorry, Wayne.
Yeah.
Or rather, Ron, I think there should be a reference between the before and after transactions that should be the same. Just have a look. if
I saw it's a big JSON output. Do you know what that field is? Is it some reference ID that?
It's just called reference. It's a property called reference.
Sorry, say that again.
It's a property just called reference.
Reference. Okay, cool.
So you should get it back with your sense amount currency code, the type.
But yeah, so for simulation transactions, the reference just says simulation. That's probably why we didn't look at production transactions.
Yeah, it is one thing we're looking at is to also update the simulator to be a bit more in line with what you would experience in an actual transaction. So we are looking at that.
Simulated transactions that it can actually show real world examples of what actually happened.
Wayne, I have a random question. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer it, but when you talk now about the cumbersome nature of managing the cards because they're linked to you, I thought of something. Last week, my wife lost her card in a supermarket, and she had her card replaced. If the card gets replaced, do I actually have to go back and re-enable the programmable banking on it?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Ernie will know, maybe.
Yeah. I actually had a chat to our card team about that because I had the same thing. My card expired. So my understanding is that the card key that they use on their side is the same. There's something on their side that they keep the two cards aligned, so you don't need to re-enable it.
Oh, cool.
No, I was just speculating here, but I think it's linked to your card number. And if you get a new card issued by Investec, I also had one recently, the number doesn't change, just the CCV and the expiry date. So I think it's linked to the number. I'm just guessing, but that's
I'll just go and double check. But I actually asked my wife because she had to go and update her card on some of the online payment systems. But the card number did change because she actually cancelled it. So it wasn't an expiry and a renewal. But I'll go and check it out now because I use you need a budget to actively budget. So I'm just stressed I missed a few transactions there. So I'll go and check it out now.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's a really good question. I've never actually thought about that.
Yeah, it might be different because it was a card cancelled, so they issued a new card, which means it will have a new card number, new card ID. So you might need to re-enable it for that one, I think. But yeah, we'll check. We'll find out.
I'll quickly log on and check as well. Thanks.
Cool.
I was just checking up that payload thing. I think I'm showing the transaction log. Might be wrong.
Is this a simulated one or a real one? Sorry.
This is a real one. So if you go to before transaction, you'll see reference there. And then after transaction, it's the same.
You have an after. Sorry. Okay. Easy. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, before and after the same, and you can see different transaction, different reference. You do get the currency code in these transactions. You can see this is a US dollar transaction.
Yeah, it's just that it's the open API, the transaction ID, the transaction calls from the API has got it as it missing.
So I see Joburg and Amsterdam. I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, that's Bitcoin or something like that. In US dollars.
Actually, do you mind?
Actually, don't know. I can't remember.
Actually, if you don't mind showing that again, was it a USD transaction amount in Amsterdam, or was it in?
Yeah.
What's the Dutch phlegm?
I don't know how much this has to do with programmable banking, but
okay, Amsterdam is USD, and the Joburg.
No, honestly, I was looking at this and I was like, "What the hell?"
It's a lot of KFC you bought.
It's a HBTC transaction. So HBTC is a cryptocurrency exchange.
We won't go there.
You can buy cryptocurrencies with your credit card, which I was
actually that'd be interesting. Are you guys looking at that at all?
At crypto, we have a guy, Kobus Beck, Becker at work. That's basically his whole function is just look at cryptos and how the bank can use them. They've done a recent project where they created a crypto vault in Investec Online. So if you log in, you can actually go to the vault and then store your crypto keys there. So at least like, you have to keep them on your PC on a text file somewhere. So in theory, that's quite useful. And then they're looking at actually linking that into an exchange, which is quite interesting. Obviously, like, I know the banks have been quite averse to cryptos completely, and they like avoided it like the plague. They were a bit warmish initially, and then they went cold. I don't think we're cold yet. I think we're still quite exploring the opportunities we can have there. But that vault thing is interesting, just to like save your keys at least somewhere centrally that you know it's like got a HSM encrypting it and all of those things, which is nice. I'll go find out like whatever happened to the vault. It might be live. Do you know, Aaron, did they go live with the vault?
Yeah, as far as I know, it is live.
Oh. Okay, so you must go look in Investec Online. I don't know where it is. Like, I haven't been on the website for a while. There should be a vault somewhere you can store it, and then from there, they're hoping you can go and buy, sell, and plug it in. I don't know, years ago, Standard Bank did an integration into Bitcoin, or into, I don't know, which is exchange, something, where they got like they actually demoed it at Finovate that I was at. Like, it's the same code behind that they're looking at plugging in behind R1.
Okay.
That's quite cool.
I'll put a link in the Zoom chat. There's something there, some kind of a podcast thing about crypto.
Thanks, Ben.
I'll put it in Slack as well. Yeah, it would be pretty awesome if we can access that with programmable banking.
Yeah, well, with the functionalities there, we just need to plug the APIs into the thing so that you can either do it through the front end or APIs. That will be quite interesting. But I'm not sure what's different between that and like a Luno type of API. I haven't looked at Luno's APIs, but it must be similar, I would imagine.
It's interesting how I could use that. Could I, as a programmable banker, then just quickly purchase some Bitcoins on the side without going through the whole other process?
Okay.
Yeah, technically. What? Yeah. I mean, geez, we can go on forever about cryptocurrency, so I'm not gonna just buy Dogecoin.
If you want, I can get that Corpus Burger guy to come give a chat on that around cryptos, what's happening in SA. Maybe that's interesting for people. I mean, he spends his whole day looking at the stuff, so I know we all don't have time to look at it all the time. And it might be quite interesting to hear him just give us what's happening in the world of cryptos.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's
all
good.
right. Thanks. I'm gonna wrap it up there. There's, oh wait, I want to just mention a few things. I think, oh no, I've got too many windows open. Lost my space. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I mean, we're probably going to move to monthly for the meetups, for now at least, just because we're running 2 make events a week. The make events are lots of fun and everyone's enjoying them. If you haven't signed up for a make event, then do that. If you need the link, then message me somehow, I'll send it to you. You get a free kit with electronics and basically build a self-watering plant.
And a t-shirt.
Awesome.